Hello, everyone, and welcome to Made in Bartlett, a program dedicated to economic development and the things that are going on in Bartlett. And we're joined today by our illustrious mayor, David Parsons. But first, before we get started, I do want to thank First South Financial for sponsoring this. If it was not for First South, we could not perform these podcasts. So we want to thank First South. And we also want to thank V2 Media for helping produce this podcast. Mayor Parsons, welcome.
Good to be here.
Good to have you. Now, for everybody watching this, we all know that the mayor of Bartlett, as any mayor would in a full-service community like Bartlett, be involved in all sorts of things. I mean, everything from dog catching to the police department. But we're going to focus on something that probably a lot of your constituents don't really know that you delve that much into it, and that's economic development. We're going to talk about what the mayor of Bartlett is doing in order to secure job opportunities for folks in Bartlett and the area for that matter. So, Mayor, of course, the Chamber of Commerce and my background is economic development, so that's what I focus on primarily. But it was very refreshing to have you become the new mayor and knowing that you have a very strong supporting of economic development. And so one of the things I remember when we got together, we talked about what's needed, what some of the basic fundamentals of economic development. And the number one thing in economic development is having the assets. And assets in economic development is primarily real estate, whether existing or greenfield sites and that type thing. So, Mayor, I remember when we first got together, we were talking about, the fact that we didn't really have much in Bartlett as far as real estate, greenfield sites, and buildings. Now, things have changed a little bit. But when you first came into office, that was one of the things that we talked about. And a lot of the big projects that we see coming around this area require a lot of land or existing buildings, which we didn't have. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that you and your team did was go out and look at some properties that could be brought into, because the one piece of property I want you to talk about was not even in the city limits of Bartlett, but y'all made things happen. But anyway, there is now a Bartlett Innovation Park, which some of you may have heard about or read about, but it's something that the mayor and his team has been working on for quite some time. So, Mayor, can I get you to just educate our viewers a little bit about how y'all came about identifying this piece of property and how y'all brought it in to the fold as far as being a major asset for Bartlett?
But as you know, when we came into office, the big buzz was Blue Oval. And we had all kind of people, of all vast array of people coming into there. And our current industrial park's about 870 plus acres, but what's left over there is small pieces, 40, 50 acres. The Vescova property is about 70 or 80 acres. But it seemed like everybody walked in the door was looking for 100 plus acres. And so I hate not having none of that product on the shelf and miss an opportunity. So we had to begin to look around and see where we could do that. And we knew that the chamber along the city had been working on several properties out and along Highway 14 out that way to take them into the city. And when we began to go out that way and look, this really made perfect sense if you're going to have any type of manufacturing to be right there on a state highway and be 23, 24 minutes from Blue Oval. So the distance from our city limits to Blue Oval was a big key in having the road structure there, Singleton Parkway along with a freshly redone Highway 14, all the bridges have been redone, sunk a lot of capital in there doing that. We began to look at the parcels that are out there that adjoined our city limits, and we found probably somewhere around 1,200 acres out there and began to approach those property owners. John had given us the names of some of the people, and we approached the Marshall Gordon family and the Warlick property and the Meyer family and the Sneed properties out there. And basically, John, we got in the truck, went out there, and I remember it was a spring day, and Mr. Sneed and then was out in the field working on the tractors, getting spring crops in the field. We literally went out in the middle of a field and was talking to them while they was on a tractor. And then it took a lot of pursuing the Warlicks and the Gordons, just getting them in, and basically, I don't think they really understood what we was trying to do or what we would get out of it. And I just explained to them, we want one thing out of it. We want you to get your property. You want to get your property. If you want to sell it, get it sold for a price that you want. And we want some light manufacturing out here that will provide great jobs for our citizens and have an economic impact on a city that all the citizens could benefit from. So it ended up over a 12-month, the first 12 months we was in office, we ended up working real close with Mr. Warlick and Marshall Gordon and secured about 300 acres and only about 225, somewhere along there, is really only buildable. The rest of it's in the floodplain. So we pursued that and just began to negotiate and to talk, bring more players to the table, and more, it just became more and more clear that that's something that we wanted to ask. So I think we annexed that property, is about 225 acres of buildable property. We annexed it into the city. I think it was in January of 2024, something like that, which really has a huge economic impact, because I think today as we speak, it's one of the larger sites in Shelby County other than being down on President's Island. So property began to reduce. And so we went out, made an agreement. Things have been really working. And the reason that we want to go out and sign that agreement with them is that really all we wanted to do is open up another avenue, open up another door, another possibility for them to make their property more marketable. Because since that time, we've gone out and looked at grants. We secured 2 grants, one from TVA and one from the state. And what those grants did is, John, is everybody that comes in here, they want to know, hey, was there a garbage dump on that property at one time or not? Excuse me. And those monies secured us to do an environmental 1. We're currently in environmental 2 right now. And we should have the reports back any day now on the environmental 2. And what that does is it wipes away any doubt. So when people fly into Nashville and say, we want to look at West Tennessee, coming to West Tennessee, can you eliminate the first 100 questions so that we could go directly to a site and be a site what we call site ready? So our whole intent was to acquire the property, get a site ready, so when they come in there, they eliminate all the sites that aren't site ready and come directly to ours. And we're just one step closer to that.
Yeah. And as you said earlier, there are not that many sites in Shelby County right now.
Nope.
I know that the Memphis Chamber, a lot of times when they get a big proposal or a request for proposal, RFPs, that depending on the size of the project and how many acres they need, a lot of times they have to come to us because we have the only thing around. Now, with that said, it's not land sitting there that's just ready to go right now. There are things that need to be done to it, and the other non-sexy part of economic development is called infrastructure. And you got to have infrastructure. You got to have sewer. You got to have water. You got to have power. You got to have gas in most cases. You got to have roads. So there's a lot of things that go into accommodating a project. So, and this site does not have all the infrastructure in place. However, it's all been addressed.
Yes, we met with a TVA. Because you start talking 50 megawatts that's coming in, a lot of these sites, depending on how much power they need, we're very fortunate that light, gas, and water doesn't create the energy. It buys it from TVA, and one of their distribution points is up on Mudville Road. So we're very close to TVA. Have a lot of transmission lines right there on Singleton Parkway, and got gas lines right there on Singleton Parkway. The sewer and the water, the sewer we think would that and the water could come from either Memphis or come from us. And so we've had over the past 2 years, we've probably had 14, 15 Fortune 500 companies come into town and put a request in with a whole bunch of questions. And the more of those questions that we're able to eliminate, such as the environmental and what's the capability, how many megawatts can you get, when can you get it, how long would it take, what would it cost. We're steady working to eliminate all those questions.
Yeah. And now speaking of infrastructure, we've got some issues. I shouldn't just say Bartlett has issues. I think everyone in the country is having issues right now because there's such a demand out there, and a lot of places around the country can't even meet those demands. Electricity is one of those. But let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we're facing in the Bartlett Corporate Park, the existing park, because as you mentioned earlier, we got two. For 50-acre sites, we got the Vescovo property, which is about 100, and then you got the Fogelman property. But we've got some issues with developing those sites, and you want to address that because I know that this has been very much on your plate, and you've done a lot to try to address this, and you found the solution, but it just isn't something that just happened by itself. It took a lot of work.
So when we came into office, one of the biggest issues on the election circuit was sewer. So when we come into office in 2023, we began to look at it as a three-legged stool. The first leg to that stool of the issue, and it all resolved. All the sewer capabilities in that area was stymied by the city of Memphis with the impact. The impact on their ability to be able to store the sewer. So they was asking us to store the sewer on site when you got a big rain and then distribute the sewer after the rain in smaller increments so they don't get overwhelmed with it. But the three-legged stool, the first leg of the stool was the Union Depot project that we spent about $4 million into there, putting the tanks in the Union Depot. The second leg to the stool is that we had two 10-inch lines ran into a 10-inch line. In the plumbing business, that's not what you do. You put 2 10s in something smaller. And we identified about 1,500 linear feet of a sewer pipe that was behind the Goodwill back there. So we couldn't take on couldn't take on any more capacity over there. We addressed that, took that 10-inch line out, replaced that 10-inch line with a 15-inch line, which opened up the 33 acres across the street and a lot of that economic development from City Hall down to Fletcher Creek. The third leg to that stool was the big tank that at the time they said was 6.2 million gallons that need to be built on the east of Fletcher Creek down there. So when we came into office, we didn't know where we would put it. We didn't know if he was going to put it above ground, below ground. We certainly didn't know the cost, and we didn't know what type of products. So over the past 2.5 years, what we worked on is a location for that, and we found the city shop that the city owns there off Yale Road will accommodate a pipe under the ground, and through that, we've also went to work looking at the product that we put in there. And we knew we didn't really want to put it above ground, so we went to infra pipe, and that's a lot of those big, if you ever drove by one of those sites, those pipes was 11 foot in diameter. You could drive a daggum car through those. So we've gone to that product. We visited that product, 2 or 3 other products, and even flew up to Indiana and looked at a city that had almost a mile of that. So we identified the product, we identified the place to put it, and now we've entered a contract with an engineering firm that will begin to design that product and begin to design that product so that with the end result is we can open that up. We just mentioned earlier that we had 874 acres in an industrial park. About if we fix that sewer pipe and take this tank over there and do that, that's going to open up about $2.8 billion worth of new economic growth over there. There's a potentially 300 acres. A lot of the properties that John just mentioned is the 46 acres across from TCAT, the Vescovo property, the Becton property, and the Fogelman property. All that collectively represents over 300 acres. That $2.8 billion that I just mentioned will create about 2,000 jobs that we believe will create an average income, average wage of about $85,000 a year. That will also open up about $2.6 million of industrial growth, let alone the $2.8 billion. I say B is in Bartlett, $1 billion worth of economic impact over there. And what a lot of folks don't know, John, is we had the Sharon Younger report that was just a couple of years old. We wanted to find out outside the city of Memphis, all the outland suburbs, we want to find out, hey, what kind of economic What kind of economic impact does the suburbs make in their own towns that contributes to the overall gross regional product for Shelby County? And we figured out, John, I think that number was about $16.5 billion that it does over there. What was really amazing to all of us in Bartlett is that you take all the 6 suburbs and equaled about $16.5 billion, that half of it, $8.3 billion of that regional product in Shelby County created outside the city limits was in our hometown of Bartlett. And so Bartlett has a pattern and has a history of getting Fortune 500 companies out here that have been out here for many years. We do a good job trying to keep those companies out here. And so we're looking to go into those new areas that we talked about, John, or it could be the medical device company, which would be a perfect fit out here. And we did not realize this, John, and you already know this, is that Bartlett is second in the nation behind Warsaw, Indiana, in advanced manufacturing for medical devices. So we're looking for medical device companies, advanced manufacturing, clean technology to come, and precision assembly. So we want people that is frontline marketables, that has high wages with high paying jobs, and it takes a high skill level to do that. So we're not really looking for more warehouses. There's plenty of places in Shelby County for warehouses. Right. We want something that's going to make an economic impact. We want that economic impact to have the impact that when you come live in Bartlett and you send your kids to our schools and they get the best education that's around. So when they graduate, the best thing we can do for your kids is provide them an opportunity to go to any college they want anywhere in America or take the VOTEC path. That's one of the reasons the city worked real hard under the Keith McDonald administration to get that TCAT Academy right there at Appling and Brother right there. And our schools are working hand in hand, getting a lot of those advanced manufacturing tools inside our high school. So your kids in Bartlett can go to high school, and when he gets into high school, he can get dual credit. So when he graduates, he can already have half his education requirement fulfilled in one of the VOTEC schools there. So our job as leaders of the community is we want to make sure that when they do that path and they go that path, that there are jobs, and good paying jobs, where they can stay here, they can grow up hometown proud, buy a home, live here, and provide a great living and repeat the legacy that so many of us have left behind and enjoy. We want them to enjoy everything and much more than we did in our hometown.
Yeah. Good. Mayor, in fact, what you just alluded to, the fact that Bartlett makes up half of the regional economic impact for the suburban part of Shelby County, I don't think many people realize that.
No.
And I know that people I talk to that I've known for quite some time, when we start talking about Bartlett and the economy of Bartlett, I mean, I think a lot of people are surprised at the impact that Bartlett has, not just in suburban Shelby County, but all of Shelby County. And one thing that may be going through the minds of some of our viewers is, well, what does all this cost in order to implement a real proactive economic development program? But I think you could tell the viewers that this is not coming out of their taxes, that there's grant money out there, that there's TIFs. You might want to explain how some of this stuff works so that, it doesn't burden the taxpayer.
Well, we started fairly on. Just this past Friday, this is Monday, and just this past Friday, we was in Nashville talking to the governor's office about a $5 million grant for the sewer project. We've been working with Congressman Kustoff's office for about a year and a half now, and we've asked them for a $5 million grant also. But grants are very sparse, and they want to make sure they're getting a good ROI on that. And it's our job to explain these numbers, John, that you just explained, that that $5 million investment in Bartlett, Tennessee brings home billions of economic impact. So those dollars help, and we've used, if you look around in any city in Shelby County that is really succeeding, and you're really seeing the landscape and the culture change in that city. I take just Millington, Tennessee. You drive down Highway 51 today, and it looks nothing like it did 5 years ago. There's the best of the amenities are there, and a lot of those amenities are created by TIFs, which tax increment financing, which allows you to freeze the property whatever the current value of property tax is bringing in will continue to bring in and go in the same place as it is. But the increment is apart from the current value to the projected value of the new investment coming in, and you're able to gather that investment at no expense to the taxpayers and take those dollars and put those investments in public infrastructure. The key word I just said is public infrastructure, not private infrastructure. So what we mean by that is streets, roads, sewer, gas lines, sidewalks, red lights, pedestrian meetings, traffic calming devices, and things like that. So all those things are much needed in every town that you ride around in. You look around and just get on the Interstate 40 and drive to Nashville. You get down Stage Road any time of night there. Things were growing. John, I just want to tell the viewers one thing I didn't realize. I just learned about 2 months ago, that one of the fastest growing regions as a nation, we are declining. But as the Southeast, we're the 5th largest economy in the world. The Southeast. Manufacturers are leaving the Northeast and the West, and they're coming to the South, coming to the Deep South and sinking their roots here because of our great work ethic, our transportation, and logistically where we stand in here. So a lot of people are, where you say where they're coming from, a lot of them are coming from other parts of the country and coming out here. They're not all just going to Texas and Florida. The majority of them are, but Tennessee does well because it's been so conservative and we don't have a state income tax and we're business friendly here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about, now we mentioned the properties. We have a 50-acre site inside Bartlett Corporate Park, another 40-acre, the Beckton property, got the Vescovo. They're all privately held. Now, that's another unique thing about what we have in Shelby County. You go to cities like Jackson, Tennessee, up the road from us, and Jackson and Madison has their own publicly owned industrial land. There's not much to be found here in Shelby County except down on the river. Pigeon Industrial Park is probably the only thing left inside the city of Memphis. And this Bartlett Innovation Park, it's not owned by the city of Bartlett, but the city does have an option on it if a big project comes along. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal, folks. But we also have other properties. We mentioned the Beckton and the Vescovo and others, but there's also the Fogelman property. That is a diamond in the rough as far as I'm concerned. And that's about 150 acres.
Yes.
And I know you've been talking to the Fogelman family quite a bit on that. What do you see the opportunities for the Fogelman property?
Well, we met with the Fogelmans probably back 3 years ago. And if you don't know where the Fogelman property is, it's just north. It's what's behind the Lowe's. And it runs all the way up to Ellis Road, and it's bound by the west by Germantown Road. So the big master plan is that road that dead ends at the end of Lowe's now will continue through this property and come back out and join back up at Brother Boulevard right there. We actually, when I first met with them, we painted a canvas that what could be there. They took our canvas that we thought could be there and went back and put really what they thought, which wasn't really far from us. But you could see, I think what we envision there is anything from high-end commercial office buildings there, high-end commercial office space. You can see some mixed use in there. And there's even the possibility, we've talked about a convention center, even some shopping there, and some big destination things that could come into there. So you got retail, you got mixed use, you've got some commercial space in there, and it's all over 150 acres. You can layer all of that in and fit into a big piece of a puzzle. It could fill in the pieces that are missing in our overall economy, such as everybody talks about the clothing. The ability to purchase clothing in Bartlett from somewhere besides some of the options that they have now. So I think it could be a big key. And what that would do is it would spur all this economic activity out from that. Just yesterday, or not yesterday is Sunday, but Friday, we just talking with another owner talking about building a hotel down there. So a lot of that just activity breeds off activity. I'm really, really, really excited about seeing the potential that's there. The Fogelmans are excited about that potential there. And it's always been, we got to get this sewer issue addressed before we can address and go further. And we hope that sometime next year we can do that. And I believe it will be very complimentary to the area down there, and we get some things that we all been thriving. A lot of people don't realize this, but one of the first things we did when we got elected is before we created a master plan, before we created we've been working on a 2020 vision for Bartlett, before we created a 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60, whatever it was, we put out a survey to all the citizens of Bartlett and asked them a whole matrix of questions. The University of Memphis helped us with that. So we surveyed all the citizens, then we turned around and surveyed all the employees, and what we created, the vision that we're talking about now, is coming from the input from the citizens that said that, and we're trying to meet those needs into there. So I think the future is bright, John. That's one of the things that when you look at the potential, just think about the added potential of almost $3 billion worth of economic impact to the city on top of what they're already generating. It's very, very exciting to me. And I know that people are excited. I know we've heard you. We know that one of the top things you want is some more white cloth restaurants. We've been working very hard to get the right retail into our town. We've been working very hard to try to get some of the vacant retail filled into there. One of the things we've cut the gap between of the unleased and the leased almost half in two since we've been in office. And one of the big contributors was that we heard over the campaign trail in 2022 all the time is the old Piggly Wiggly space. It's 52,000 square feet. It's been empty for 18 years. If we elect you, what can you do? What are you going to do to fix that today? I can tell you more than half of it is already filled with Chiefs Auto Parts. And so today we're opening up Chipotle's that opened up at 10:45 this morning. A lot of people are excited about that. We want to try to get the right restaurant and dining amenities into our town. We realize that you can get a hamburger or a piece of chicken cooked about any kind of way you want right now, but we're really looking for that fine dining to come into Bartlett. And if you're out there and you have a fine dining establishment and have any interest in all in Bartlett, please call me, 385-6444, and we'd be glad to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you, because that's a niche market out here that the people are constantly saying that they want, and we want to deliver on that and get some of these fine. So it's all about you talk to some of the owners over in our existing Bartlett industrial park, and the number one thing that they say is that we like being in Bartlett. For number one, we feel safe, and number two is that a lot of the housewives are employed over there because their husbands won't let them go elsewhere to work because they know that they feel safe. It's a great community, and we're trying to fill in those amenities that are missing, and so that the whole intent is that so you're teenagers, and so whatever age you are, you don't have to leave our community to go elsewhere to try to find a dining option. Nothing wrong with that, but you should have a choice here, and we're trying to expand those choices.
Great. Well, folks, I think hopefully you have got the message that your mayor, the mayor of Bartlett, is a little bit passionate about all this, and he's a good partner to have in economic development. You know, that's my background. That's what I've been involved in most of my career. And to have this mayor who understands economic development, of course, he was a builder. So, I mean, you know, if somebody in the building industry understands economic development, knows what drives it. But Bartlett is in great shape. And the mayor here is trying to address those challenges that we have, like the infrastructure, the sewer, but they will be fixed. And Mayor, I'd like to ask you what vision, I know your vision, but let's share it with the viewers. What's your vision for Bartlett, say in the next 10, 15, 20 years? What do you see for Bartlett, given what we've talked about?
Just what we just talked about, if you think about it, if we get a Fortune 500 company that's paying really good jobs, that employs 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 people in our industrial and innovation park, that in itself will be something. Then there's all kind of housing needs in there. But if we can land something, and we will land something there in these next few years, that would be one thing I see in a vision. The other half of that vision is this sewer problem being fixed and resolved, and let's opening up those 300 acres that I just talked about, and let's looky here. Let's see what can happen in that 150 acres that the Fogelmans have, and let's see what can happen on those 30 and 40 acre parcels. Let's fill those parcels in and begin to generate even more jobs and get that overall Shelby County regional product from 8.3 million to up in the teens. So I'd like to see that rise. like to see all those opportunities that our citizens are excited about, for all those opportunities in the Fogelman property. We have quite a few things that's under construction right now, or fixing to be under construction. One of the things that we've done on infrastructure that we're trying to be with the TIF that just got passed, we want to try to make those safety improvements up and down the state road corridor. I like to see those safety improvements done, and in the next 10, 15 years, begin to take those safety improvements back up Highway 70 and back up Yale Road there. We have a lot of housing opportunities. See those housing opportunities get off the ground, and I believe they'll go just like that. Something simple that I can talk to you that's just really simple. One of the things that we've done is, since we've been mayor, we began to, if you remember the storm in 2023, we've already began to address a lot of those red lights that went out at these major intersections. And just last week, our power went out, and one of them, we got battery backup on the light right there at the railroad tracks. So now when the power goes out, it goes to battery backup, and that battery backup meant that light continued to function for about 2.5 hours before the power come back on. And if the power stays out longer than that, we got all these major intersections. We put these electrical pigtails on there where all we have to do is walk up, plug it into a generator, and we can continue to keep people safe by keeping those lights. And in the meantime, we bought, if you didn't see the little portable traffic light that we roll up, it's a full-fledged traffic light on a little two-wheel trailer. Those things like that. And this sewer is a big issue, and it's very costly, but then we got a lot of upgrades to the existing system that we need to do. So I really, I know I'm kind of up against the wall with some time, but I see a brighter future. I see our kids getting the best education. And the future that I would like to see is our kids begin to live, work, and stay and retire in a community. A lot of us, is very easy for me to talk about folks my age or older about retiring. But what the dream is that I'm tired of you and me having to drive in another metropolitan city hundreds of miles here to visit our kids because we did not have the quality of life that they're looking for and the type of living that they would like to do with. So we're trying to address things that would keep our kids in town, provide jobs for our kid once they get that good education, that they want to say, hey, Mom, Dad, guess what? I just got a job over here. And because I got a good paying job, I've decided that I'm going to stay home, buy a home here, sink my roots here, and make me, just like y'all, hometown proud.
Great, Mayor. Thank you very much. And folks, I just want to end by saying, a lot of people may not realize how fortunate Bartlett is. I mean, we've got the land, we've got the dedication, we got the workforce, we've got what it takes to grow Bartlett and continue our movement forward. And with the leadership like Mayor Parsons, I can see no problems with that going forward. So with that, I'm going to thank First South Financial again for sponsoring this, making this podcast possible. Thank you, V2 Media, for your production capabilities, and we'll see you next time.